right, good early afternoon, and welcome to the Blue Plate Special. I'm Andy Andrews, and we are live here at Wisdom Harbor Studios at the Wharf in Orange Beach, Alabama. It's kind of like Brown Beach right now. Everything's kind of brown. The hurricane burnt the leaves, but still beautiful, still pretty. It's a pretty shade of brown. And I see already YouTube is back up this week. And if you're on Facebook, you guys please click that notification button to know that, so that you know when we're live. Hi to everybody on Instagram and the Twitter people. I'm sure you're around out there. If you're on YouTube or anytime you go to YouTube to watch our stuff, please click that subscription button, okay? We got a bunch to talk about today. We just got a bunch of news, and I was talking with a client the other day and was talking about a specific thing that I haven't been able to quit thinking about, and now I've been adding, it's been connecting. It's just been butterfly effecting just in my head. So, hey, Clint, up in Ohio, is it cold up there yet? It's got to be cold. It's got to be cold, even though no hurricanes. But you were here for Ivan, so. Sunny day in Dallas. Chet Calhoun. Hey. Yvonne, how are you doing? And let's see, who else we got today? Nancy Brown from Joplin, Missouri. Lisa Young from Farmington, Missouri. And there's Searcy, Arkansas. Sandra from Searcy. A whole bunch of you guys. Thank you for being with us today. Let's see, what do we talk about first? Hey, what about the quiz? Have you heard about the quiz? We actually have a quiz. It's a Just Jones quiz, and you can find it on social media as well as the link that'll be posted in the chat box. But it's this kind of cool noticer Just Jones kind of quiz thing. Just a little something to play with, something to pass around if you want. And I think you'll have a great time with that. And let me just tell you before we talk about anything else, I'm just going to tell you a main topic, and then we'll kind of go back and forth with it because I want you to think through this with me too. Misunderstood phrases, misunderstood words. Jones told me years ago, he said, you can't believe everything you think, right? And so it is amazing to me that sometimes you get to a point in your life and you find out that something you've thought is just totally wrong. Or, it's just amazing to me that you can go that long and not, and I had one. I was talking to a client about this, and then it's just kind of led me to thinking a bunch of other different things. This is kind of crazy, this is kind of nuts, but still, I'm going to tell you. And I was 45 years old before I heard this in a certain way. And what it was we were in this antique store thing and something, and I heard somebody say something about it's a beautiful chest of drawers, and it just hit me, and I went, a chest of drawers. Of course, a chest of drawers, a chest of drawers. Wow. I was 45 years old, and all my life I thought it was a Chester drawers. It could be it could be because I'm from Alabama. I don't know, but it could be because I swear I thought for years it was called a Chester drawers, and that's just what I heard. And so, but when somebody said a chest of drawers, it just made perfect sense. It made perfect sense. There is a prayer that's done in a lot of churches. And now when I hear this prayer, I always think about a buddy of mine. I hadn't seen him in years, but he actually went to Notre Dame, which for an Alabama fan is kind of tough to take. It's tough for me to even talk about Notre Dame. And if you'd like me to tell you why, I'll tell you exactly why. It's because in 1973, when I was in the 8th grade, my daddy gave me tickets to the Sugar Bowl game, and it was the last Sugar Bowl to be held in Tulane Stadium, and Alabama was number 1, and Notre Dame was number 2. And my daddy and I got to go, and we sat in the south end zone, and it rained the entire time, and Notre Dame beat us 24-23, and I cried. So for a long time, I hated Notre Dame. And it kind of, that was not exercised out of me, even though Alabama beat them several other times. That was not exercised out of me until that national championship game. Remember the guy that had the fake girlfriend? He was like some Notre Dame player. I can't even remember who it was. But, I was like telling people, hey, at least we have real girlfriends here. But you remember that, right? And Alabama just like slaughtered them in the national championship game. And I don't mind them as much anymore. I don't mind them at all. They're fine. Well, they're not fine. I just don't mind them as much. But my friend went there, and he had grown up, gone to Catholic church his entire life, gone to Catholic school, and he had the prayer memorized. And the first time he went to Mass at Notre Dame, they had passed out little pieces of paper that had the prayer on it, and so that everybody would recite the prayer, and he's reading the prayer, and the last part of the prayer is thanks be to God. That's what they say, thanks be to God. And my friend, at the age of 18, just went, because he thought for years, I mean, what he had been saying for years is, thanks, speedy God. At the end of his prayer, he was always doing that, and he was saying, thanks, speedy God. It's like speedy God. It's like, hey, we need some help. Come on. Hey, thanks, speedy God. So that's what John thought. Hey, how do you like my shirt? Nobody's even noticed the shirt. So we'll just keep going. I won't say anything about the shirt. I've got several of these things written down there are several of them that I remembered that I don't know if they qualify as something being misunderstood. All right. Because some of them are, but some of them are just kind of like dumb. Okay. Some of them are misunderstood things. I remember when Austin was a little kid, remember the Christmas song, "In the meadow we will build a snowman," and it's in the meadow we will build a snowman and pretend that what is it? It's something like
possum or something?
No, it's not possum. You see, you're messing it up too. It's not Possum Brown. It's Parson Brown. In the meadow we will build a snowman and pretend that he is Possum Brown. But you know what Austin would say? Austin was a little bitty kid, and Austin would say, "In the meadow we will build a snowman and pretend that he's a horse and clown." So, Ava Jean Hodge, you like it? The Airhead. Jan Ritter, is that a puncher? No, it's an Airhead. To see, this is another way that I can tell. Back it up just a little bit. Back it up. No, there you go. See, Jan, that's another way I can tell you haven't read Just Jones. You hadn't read it, have you? Because you would recognize the symbolism on the shirt. So Clint Knowles says, yes, we have noticed. We are noticers. And Bonnie Walker says, I did notice the shirt. We just got them in. I'm sorry, but we're just like real excited. Martha Rigsby says, is there anything on the back of your shirt? Of course. I'm having to, I'm lucky I got to enforce anything on the front of this shirt. But on the back of the shirt, let's see, I can show you, and then Matt will show you like an up close. Like, here's the back of the shirt, okay? And it says, Matt, show him the close-up thing, or show him a good view. It says, sometimes a thing is impossible until it is actually done. And so we just, like Matt is like, we said, oh no, I gotta wear it. Matt's like, no, I haven't got the pretty picture up on the website yet. And so he's got some picture up on the website, of it, but he's not satisfied. And he's over there sulking, which is why he said Possum Brown probably. And may you be forgiven by Possum Brown. Thanks be to God. And then, but these are like really, it's really soft. Now, Polly's not watching, but if she was watching, she'd say, it's dirty. You didn't wash it. It's dirty. Well, okay. It's probably dirty. I don't know. But these are and I just apologize right off the bat because it's like it costs more than I thought it was going to cost, but it's that soft, it's that 100% comfort colors, it's that kind of shirt. Pocket on the front with your very own arrowhead, and anyway, it feels real good. It feels kind of dirty right now, but it feels really good. Let's see, another thing that Austin used to think, that song, that Everybody Plays the Fool? Remember that? Little Austin. Yes, it is Comfort Colors brand. George P. Cosser III. Yes, it is. Comfort Colors brand. I mean, it's really soft. Really nice. So, remember that song, Everybody Plays the Fool? When Austin was real little, he would go around singing, everybody plays the flute sometimes. So, I got to tell you something Adam did. What did Adam do? I'll tell you about the first time he cussed in just a minute, okay? And then I'll tell you something he said. Hey, I want to do, we were laughing the other day because Judy Martin Hess, one of the Martins, which I'm sure you know who they are. If you don't, go on YouTube, look up the Martins. But we're talking about the podcast, the Professional Noticer podcast, and how at the very end of the podcast, at the very end of every podcast, we always have a fake commercial. Near the first of the podcast, we talk about who the sponsor is, but at the very end, we always say additional financial consideration provided by, and we're kind of doing it like Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. We're doing it like one of those old game show type of things that, at the end they would say Monty Hall's jackets by Botany 500 and Dicker of Beverly Hills, whoever they were. But do you remember those? Hey, G. McDonald. And so anyway, that's what we're doing. And so we're talking about this the other day, and I see come up on the screen, Judy goes, they're fake? I didn't know those were fake. And I'm like, really? I mean, we've done like 113 of them. And but I just had somebody the other day say to me, you know what? I always turned it off after the first part, after you did the interview, when you started saying that it was produced by Matt Limpert and all that kind of stuff, I always turned it off. And I'm like, really? Well, Matt will really appreciate that. Hey, Roger Luker, how you doing? It's my oldest friend. I was in a playpen with Roger Luker. It was great talking to you the other day and great talking to Beck. But anyway, I would, we do these things. And so, in this week's episode, last week was Michael Perry, right?
That's right.
Yeah. We have two funny ones right in a row, okay, because this week we've got Brent Burns. It's already out, and I'm sure if you're on the West Coast, it came in at 3:15. That's talking back to another episode of something that you need to see. When we read the letter of the lady complaining that the thing had come in at 3:15 and that they were waking her up. It's like, okay. And that how many toes did she have? Three toes. And she told us this on the air. It's like, okay, you wake me up. I can't believe you wake me up. And here I am out here with 3 toes. So, so I was going to tell you the fake commercial. So that's one of the things Matt and I have a great time doing, is doing the endings to these things. And it just killed us to realize that there were people who didn't even know we were ending these things with something that we'd worked hard on. And so we thought, well, I want to talk about it on the Blue Plate Special a little bit and do a couple of them for you. So I'm going to do one of them for you now. So these are fake commercials. At some point on Wisdom Harbor, we're going to actually make these dudes some videos of them, okay? But now they're just audios. And I think Wisdom Harbor, you can see them 5 at a time or hear them 5 at a time. But anyway, here was one of them. This was about a month ago, I think, okay? This is how we ended the show. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Candied apples provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by PoodleFloss.com. Are you determined to keep your teeth and gums healthy, but equally determined to be environmentally friendly? Rinsing oral health and rising awareness among consumers has now made dental floss a $500 million business. Did you know that 3 million miles of dental floss is used in the United States each year? Unfortunately, most dental floss is made from nylon, a plastic commonly used in the manufacturing of consumer goods. So that's 30 million miles of non-biodegradable plastic being draped across America's landscape every decade. Fortunately for the future of our country, the good people at poodlefloss.com are providing an answer. Having contracted with dog groomers the world over, the organic clippings from poodles have been saved and, by way of a unique process, woven into fine spools of organic fur. Available waxed or unwaxed, poodle floss, when used properly, still maintains that faint essence of wet dog to assure you that you've made an all-natural choice that will contribute to saving our planet. That's poodlefloss.com, available in 3 sizes: standard, miniature, and toy. So that's how we end these things, okay? I'll do another one for you in just a couple minutes. But hey, did you know that I went and got a coffee maker? Yeah, I got one. I did, because of the coffee. But I got I just don't drink a whole lot of coffee. And so we didn't even have a coffee maker up here. Matt doesn't drink much coffee. SB doesn't drink much coffee. And now we're going to drink some coffee. I mean, this smells so good. So this is the Just Jones Java that those of you who recognize the shirt would already recognize the coffee too. Okay, so I was going to tell you something that a couple of things that Adam did. I was going to tell you the first time he cussed. But I'll also tell you that one of the things that I always remember, and we still say, Polly and I still say this to each other, and that is that there was sometime Adam was taking us somewhere, and we were like, oh, Adam, now you don't get us lost here. And he says, oh, don't worry. And he's like 6 years old. And Adam says, don't worry, I know this place like the back of my head. So we still say that. Like the back of my head. I know this like the back of my head. Now, the first time he cussed, it's probably the only time he's cussed, I think. Adam's 18 now. I'm almost positive this is the only time he cussed. He was like 4, okay? And Polly and I were sitting up on the bed in our bedroom, and Austin and Adam were like wrestling down on the floor. And so, I mean, they're like, headlocks. Doing that. And Adam, just like they're staring at him, goes, oh, damn it. And when he did that, everything stopped. Austin stopped. He stopped. Polly and I looked down, and he looks up at me and he goes, I was saying it to myself. I was saying to myself. I was saying, damn it, to myself. I wasn't saying it to anybody. I was just saying it to myself. And I said, buddy, where did you hear that word? And of course, Polly is sitting next to me. Polly's going, please don't throw your mother under the bus. Don't throw your mother under the bus. I said, buddy, where did you hear that word? And he said, MacGyver. Damn it. I was saying it to myself. I was only saying it to myself. So, let's see. I've got a couple other of these notes. Oh, here's a good one. Is Kevin Perkins on here today? I'm wondering if Kevin is on here, because Kevin was in the car when this one happened. Kevin and I were laughing about something a friend of ours said the other day. In fact, we were trying to tell Adam about this, about how weird it sounded. A friend of ours was like, he was massaging his eyes. You know how you... And he just happened to be like leaning on the table, massaging his eyes, and pushed on his head when somebody said, wow, that had that big freeze in Clanton, Alabama this year, and it's just like ruined all the peach blossoms. And Steve goes, oh, God, peaches are going to be expensive this year. And Kevin and I went, well, buddy? Our friend, I mean, he wasn't meaning to sound like that, but it was like, it's okay, Steve. It's all right. I'll get you some peaches. But we've always remembered that. So here's old man and I in the car. Old man is who we call Kevin Perkins. I saw Judson on here. Judson, you know why we call your daddy old man, don't you? I'm sure you do. It's because Kevin started losing his hair when he was like a sophomore in high school. You know, he started looking like an old man. And so we started calling him old man then. But anyway, Kevin and Glenda were in the car, and Polly and I are in the car, and we're driving down Canal Road. And there's a sign up on one of the places, and it said, AUCE shrimp. And Polly said, Os shrimp. Os shrimp. What kind are those? And Kevin and I just like looked at each other. And Kevin says, you haven't heard of those? Polly goes, Os shrimp? No. Kevin says, just another kind. She said, Os shrimp. He said, you heard of live shrimp? You heard of fried shrimp? You've heard of boiled shrimp, right? And I just couldn't. I was just about snorting. It's like, Polly, it's AUCE. It's all you can eat shrimp. Oh, okay. But, to this day, anytime we see that, it's Os shrimp to us. Hey, that restaurant has Os shrimp. You want to go? Let's see. I got... Before I tell you the best one and tell you about a joke that will be played this weekend, I do want to tell you about the two. It's not the two stupid things that I've heard, stupidest things, but two of the stupidest things that I've heard. I won't even tell you who said these things. Okay, I can't. But this was a couple of friends. And they know who they are. Two separate friends said this. One, now, there's an island down here. In fact, if you've read the book, they call this Pleasure Island. It's because the canal cuts off, and there's, the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach are actually an island. And there's another island over here, Ono Island, and there's Robinson Island. And so we're driving along. And a friend of mine just has come to the area for the first time. He's looking. So this is really beautiful down there. And, he's looking off the bridge. And he said, this is so beautiful. And he said, so that's an island? And I said, yeah, it's an island. He said, does the water go all the way around the island? Yes. That's why we call it an island. Right? And I had to remind him of saying something so stupid because he had really made fun of his wife one time. We were up in Michigan, and we passed this field that had geese in it. And Polly and I are in the car with he and his wife, and my friend said, look at all the Canada geese. And his wife said, right, like you know where they're from. So anytime you brought that up, I said, yes. And the water goes all the way around the island. Okay? And here is probably, this may be one of the, if it's not the stupidest, it's maybe one of the funniest things I ever heard. I laugh every time I think about this. Downtown, and big kind of thing going on. And I came back and told a bunch of people, I said, hey, there's a clown right over there. Anybody wants to see the clown? And a friend of mine said, is it a real clown or just somebody dressed up like a clown? That's still very funny to me. Is it a real clown or somebody just dressed up like a clown? Not really sure. Okay, I'll do one more fake commercial. Then I'm going to tell you a joke that would be played on somebody this weekend. I'll tell you who. I'll tell you how it all happened. And but let me do this other. This is another fake. In fact, is this one the one from this week? Okay, this is one. When you watch, I didn't even tell him who was on this week's podcast, did I?
I think you mentioned it.
Did I? I know I said Michael Perry was last week. Well, this week is Brent Burns. Two funny ones in a row. Brent Burns is the guy who 150, 160 years ago, when I lived on the beach, he was like the guy, the celebrity down here. He still is, actually. He was a celebrity down here then. He's a legend down here now. But Brent played in the Holiday Inn, and his name is Brent Burns. And I would always see Brent Burns in lounge. And I always thought, it's like a human sacrifice. But Brent would play, and he was very funny. Everybody just loved him. And he was the guy who would let me come up in between his sets and talk. Right? I mean, I was doing what I thought was comedy. And, and Brent was already very established, and Brent was very nice because nobody was laughing. But Brent would go, oh, that's good, that's funny. But he was the only one laughing. And I can't believe, but he'd let me do that again and again. And really he's been a friend and a mentor of mine just my entire life. And so to this day, but Brent has written some songs that he is a funny songwriter. I mean, that's what he does. There's a bunch of albums, and he's got, he had one song, in fact, the first huge hit, and you'll hear these stories on the podcast, but the first huge hit Brent had was in the 80s, and it was during the Arab oil embargo. Do you remember? And so Brent wrote this song called Cheaper Food because he found out we're shipping, food over there, and then they're holding us up on the oil. And so Brent writes this very funny song called Cheaper Crude or No More Food. And somehow Paul Harvey got a hold of it. You remember him, don't you? Paul Harvey. Good day. He got a hold of it. And in his entire career, he never played a song on that show except for one song. And he played Brent's song, Cheaper Crude or No More Food, 3 days in 1 week. And the thing went nuts. I mean, Rolling Stone calling Brent. I mean, everybody. I mean, it just literally, the BBC, all over the world, people were calling, and, this thing was selling like crazy. And so Brent tells that story, very funny, but there's several funny stories to talk about. And he actually sings a couple of songs, and he does, which everybody down here thinks the funniest song that Brent has done, that he wrote and sang, and it's called "If It's Snowbird Season, Why Can't We Shoot 'Em?" And so you have to see the podcast. But anyway, here is the end of that podcast, and this was the fake commercial we wrote. Kevin Perkins, I'm glad you're finally here. We've already been talking about you. We've already told Kevin Perkins stories. So you'll have to go back and see it again and share it to all your friends and everything. Let's see. So we're going to do this is the last of the one we did that came out this week. I think I got that right. Okay, you ready? Here we go. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Tropical Nuts provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by The Embarrassing Dad's Handbook. Are you the father of teenagers? Those semi-human life forms that used to be so nice ran into your arms every day after work and laughed at all your jokes? But now they're taller, gawkier, with fuzzy skin and smart mouths. Now, when you walk into the room, sometimes they walk out. And if they stay, the teenager is sullen or appears to be bored. This, friend, is where the Embarrassing Dad's Handbook can help. It's a manual put together by experts specifically designed to save the relationship between you and your teen. For now, all you need to know is that your child still loves you. But it's time to show them your feelings in a different way. Nothing says, "I love you," more clearly to a teenager than a father who cares enough to embarrass them. The Embarrassing Dad's Handbook will teach you how to dress around your teen. One section emphasizing the necessity of black dress socks with sandals and Bermuda shorts. The handbook contains suggestions for conversation topics when you find yourself in the presence of your teen and their friends. Learn how to talk about things like what real music is, how you acted when you were their age, and urinary tract dysfunctions. The Embarrassing Dad's Handbook is a treasure trove of vocabulary that will be a hit the next time you have teenagers in your car. You'll soon master the skill of it, including expressions like groovy and far out, in addition to properly referring to anyone who smokes cigarettes as a sinner. The handbook also contains situational awareness tips, so you'll know exactly when to dial up your teenager's nerves by talking too loud, eating too much, staying too long, not staying long enough, and all the many things about you your kid seems to no longer like. So order now. Why wait? Your teenager needs the love only you can show. Find that love language in the Embarrassing Dad's Handbook. There you go. And Beverly Newton-Simon says that you love the theme song. You know, it's the same theme song we use here on Blue Plate, right?
It is.
Yeah. And it's called the Noticer Theme. That really is the name of it. And Sugarcane Jane did it. And it was funny because when we were looking for a theme song, hey, Ron Reams, when we were looking for a theme song, I called Anthony. And I said, buddy, I said, there's got to be something. There's some kind of thing that maybe you could write that it would be just memorable. Something memorable. And I remember being on a talk show one time and hearing their music and going, man, it was the same music every time. And as that music was going, the host would start talking. I thought, man, that sounds so cool. So I remember calling him that day, Matt. And so we called Anthony and said, so this is kind of what we're thinking about, some kind of, not too rockish, but, not soft either. And just kind of, and Anthony says, okay, all right, well, let me think about it. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe next week I'll hear from him. 10 minutes later, he calls back and says, hey, listen to this. I'm like, what? How's that? How did you do that? He said, well, I've had it for a while. But has never used it for anything. And I'm like, seriously? And so, and he said, you can have it. I said, buddy, no, I'm going to buy this and sign something. I'm not just taking this. And so we get the thing, and he's getting different versions of it to Matt, and we find out that Anthony wrote this. He and Savannah played on it, and the horns that you hear in the background. Man, I didn't know I was going to tell the story, and I wish I could think of the guy's name right now. Well, I'll find out from Anthony. Savannah, if you or Anthony are on here, tell us who it is, okay? Because I don't know. I haven't seen y'all on here today, but he's a horn player, and you have heard this guy before because this guy, he was on every Aretha album, every Aretha Franklin album ever done. He did, let's say, the Willie Nelson, several Willie Nelson things. He's the horns in Sitting by the Dock of the Bay. He's the horns in Sweet Caroline. He's the dun, dun, dun. Can you believe this? And I'm like, with Anthony, I said, this is like this guy? And he said, oh, yeah, man. He said, we were just sitting around the studio and playing one day. I said, well, so is it okay? He said, oh, yeah, he's dead. So it's fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. But we looked up all the stuff that he did. It's incredible. City of New Orleans, he's on that song. Just tons and tons of stuff. Okay, so let's close today by telling you about a joke that's going to be played this weekend. I've got to set it up. I've got to set this. No, it's not Phil Driscoll. Nope. But I've got to set this joke up for this to happen this weekend, and I will. But you guys have to play along because you cannot tell Austin. If you run into Austin, if you talk to Austin, Austin's out in Idaho, okay, and he's doing stuff out there with Will and Lauren and this big ranch, and they're having a great time and they're working hard. But I've got to talk to Will and Lauren to set this up. But if you talk to him, if you text with him, if you run into him in Idaho, do not say anything, because the beauty of this joke is that it happens to Austin twice a year, which is not often enough for him to be ready for it. And we catch him every single time. Nope, not Maynard and Ferguson. I don't know that you would recognize the guy's name. I can't remember his name. I'll tell you. Next Blue Plate we do, I'll be ready to tell you. But so here is what happened, okay? Austin's like 10 years old, maybe 9. I don't know. Austin, he's huge now. He's like taller than I am. It's like muscles and everything. But when he was little, he was like a little wormy kid. And so he's like 9 or 10, but he was still in the booster seat in the back seat. He was that young that he was still having to sit in the back seat. And you said you forgot to put the countdown clock up?
It's up there.
But we got the countdown clock. And what? How far are we away from 2021?
79 days, 12 hours, 7 minutes, and 8 seconds.
79 days. Okay. All right. Well, there it is. There's a countdown clock. And thank you, Marcy, for reminding us. All right. So that's it. That's a good segue into what I'm going to tell you. So Austin's like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. He's a little bitty guy, and he's in the back seat. And so it's spring, and we're she said, Dana says, how do you know Austin won't see the Blue Plate special? He's working. He ain't gonna be seeing the Blue Plate special. I'm just telling you. And he's out in the middle of nowhere with no internet or anything. But so he's in the back seat, and we're headed to church. Just Austin and I are in our car. Adam and Polly have already gone. They're in her car, and so Austin in the back seat. I'm driving down our street, and it is the Sunday morning after the time changed. Okay, the time changed, last night. Now it's Sunday morning. And so I just said to Austin, I said, it's going to be very interesting to see who's messed up in the church. He said, what do you mean? And I said, with the time change last night and everything, it's just going to be interesting to see, who's messed up on their time and forgot about it and all like that. And he says, all right. I'm just driving along. He says, it's always interesting to me to think about Austin, I've always seen he's like been 40 years old ever since he was 6. So he's this like really like this little mature little kid, and she's, it's always been interesting to me to think about how the animals feel when the time changes. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it must be very interesting to be in the middle of the woods and you think it's going to get light, but it doesn't get light when you think it's going to get light. And it stays dark for an extra hour. That must be very interesting. I wonder if it scares them or something. And I'm driving along and I said, buddy, I said, that's us. We're manipulating the clock. That's us. We're the ones doing that. He said, I know, Dad, but I'm wondering what the animals think with that extra hour of darkness. And I said, Austin, we're the ones doing it. He says, Dad, you don't understand what I'm saying. So I pull the car off the side of the road, and I turn around over the back seat, and I said, really? Okay, well, explain this really good to me. And he goes, never mind. Okay, good. And so now move ahead like about a month, all right? And about a month later, we're headed to the hunting camp. And so I have already got this set up. Martis Overstreet is the caretaker at the hunting camp. And so Martis is, I've already had the conversation with Martis, and he knows what he's going to do. And the boys just, to this day, they love Martis. And so the second we ever get to the hunting camp, they immediately go see Martis. Now, this time I followed him. I wanted to hear this. And so, Martis is just like a grandfather kind of guy. He is awesome. I mean, he is one of my best buddies too. And so the boys get there, and the next morning, it's going to be the opening day of turkey season. Okay, so everybody's trying to, talk to Martis and try to find out, okay, have you been listening? Where are the turkeys gobbling? Where are you hearing some turkeys gobble? And so we get up there, and Austin says, Mr. Martis, have you heard any turkeys gobbling? Martis says, I've been out several mornings, and I hadn't really heard many turkeys gobbling. They've been pretty quiet. I'm not sure why they should be gobbling, but they're being pretty quiet. They might be messed up because of that extra hour of dark. Austin just laid on the ground. It was like the funniest thing in the world to me. Okay, so, you think, okay, well, it's over. But, 6 months later, here we go again. And, man, every 6 months, and Austin always forgets this, and it don't matter if he's out of town, we get somebody else to do it. And so I'll be talking to Will and Lauren tonight. One time we were on a cruise ship with the Gaithers, and Buddy Green this was a special one because we had just crossed the international time zone, right? So it wasn't the normal time, but everybody had to set their watches. So Buddy Green calls him over to one of the edge of the cruise ship, and he's looking down the water, and Buddy says, have you seen any whales today? Austin said, no, sir, I haven't seen any today. Buddy said, I hadn't seen any whales either. He said, I've been seeing them every day, but I hadn't seen any today. Austin said, I haven't either. Buddy said, must be the time change. But we get him every time. All right, you guys. Go on andyandrews.com. You can see the shirt and the coffee, and we got more things coming. And next time we do the blue plate next week, sometime we'll let you know who that horn player is. We need to talk with Anthony. Ron says, was it David Hood? I don't know. I'm not sure I would recognize the name. I know it wasn't somebody that I knew. No, it wasn't Doc Severson. I actually knew Doc Severson. It wasn't Doc, but I'll let you know when we get back. It wasn't Brandon Marcellus. I'm telling you, it wasn't anybody that I recognized their name. This was like a session guy. I can't think of it, but I'll let you know. Next week, okay? You guys be safe. Have a great weekend. And one more thing. What day of the week is this?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. So don't have a great weekend yet. I mean, that's typical of me, isn't it? I mean, were you even going to say anything? No? You're just going to let me just go up like me thinking it was Thursday. Let's come back Thursday. Can we come back Thursday? And I'll let you know Thursday when, who the horn player was. And be watching, because I think tomorrow there's going to be a big email coming to you. So please make sure that you have your address in andyandrews.com, and make sure that your spam thing is not capturing it. If you think you've got your address in there and you haven't gotten anything from us ever, then something's happening spam wise, and you don't want to miss what we're going to send out tomorrow. I think you're going to be very, very interested in it. And no, it was not Herb Alpert, even though I used to love that album. I'd put that on. Remember all those saying dun 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 dun, and I just loved all those songs. And I remember, I don't know what age I was, probably about the same age that Austin was when he was thinking about the animals in the dark. But I remember when I realized that was not a white dress that woman was wearing. That was whipped cream all over her. And the guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, girls, you don't remember this album. You could go look up Herb Alpert Whipped Cream, and you'll see the album cover. But guys know. Guys know. They ain't got to look. It's just like saying the Farrah Fawcett poster to the guys. All the guys are like, oh, yeah, I had one of those. Oh, yeah. And girls are like, what? Which one? Oh, come on. So, but I remember when I thought that's not a dress, because I thought it was like a white wedding dress. It was whipped cream. That's what it was. See you Thursday. Da 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 da.